From behind, he watched unhappily as the two of them stood so close together, and he was even whispering into another man's wife's ear like that. While Frey continued to whisper, she thought about how she could be living a peaceful life in the north. Getting entangled in the capital's troubles was quite a hassle, and she was relying on the information that he had just shared, analyzing that the crux of the matter was, if His Highness were to ask why the daughter of Duke Balazette was helping him, it would be understandable for someone with his mindset. Even so, I can't just carelessly reveal future events any further. If I say that His Majesty will pass away sooner than expected, things will become even more complicated. Nadia silently calculated in her head. After a moment of silence, she finally opened her mouth. It's because I don't think His Highness Liam is truly fit to sit on the throne. I have to figure out how to lie in the most sincere way possible. Nadia recounted the things she knew. The second prince once punished a servant from the ducal household. He ordered that the servant's wrist be cut off. As a punishment, that servant was soon kicked out of the residence. That person was the only friend I had when I was little. If His Highness Liam truly valued human life, regardless of whether it was a rumor or not, he would have taken action, even if it damaged his reputation. But in the end, he didn't do that, did he? I believe the person worthy of the throne must be someone with love and compassion, just like the crown prince. And this was the truth. She felt her words were flawless. The last sentence was a lie, but the remarks about Liam's character weren't entirely wrong. Frey was moved by Nadia's every word. He was deeply touched. Marchioness, you truly... Glenn, watching from afar, was horrified by the sight because he was speaking so gently. You always surprise me one way or another. I owe you and House Winterfell a great deal. How can I ever repay this favor? She didn't desire anything extravagant, only for Frey to become more capable. Please just study. That will be enough. He was astonished after hearing that and thought, usually I'd hear some flowery words like, it is simply the duty of a loyal subject, right? Frey was suddenly reminded of something Nadia had said that stuck with him. While the second prince is under confinement, this is the best opportunity. It would be very effective if you said, the reason I've acted so irresponsibly until now was to avoid the threats from my stepmother and her relatives. Of course, there are still those in the capital who do not accept my father's rule. And why don't they speak up? It's because they don't have an ounce of power to oppose him, like standing all alone in the middle of a storm. Her every word struck him with powerful force. He was dazed. Wait, I get it, please stop. Seeing Frey still looking bewildered, she asked with concern, are you sure you understand? It is simply the duty of a loyal subject, right? Frey was suddenly reminded of something Nadia had said that stuck with him, shattering the atmosphere between the two of them. Then Glenn spoke coldly. The ground here is still quite damp, Your Highness. Shouldn't we be moving? Now Nadia spoke up awkwardly. That's true. And he was utterly confused. Why won't you even look at me? Suddenly Frey remembered something, you know? You truly are a blessed man, I wish. I had an aide as brilliant as the Marchioness too. He observed his expression and remarked, look, on second thought, the Marquis is actually kind of cute. Glenn acted like that was a given, since we're a married couple. Furthermore, we will also help with the restoration costs for Winterfell. Your Highness, please announce that Winterfell has made a contribution to the restoration fund. Frey laughed and said, of course. Also, since I've received so much help from you two, I'd also like to return the favor. His offer made her curious. How does the prince intend to repay us? While Nadia was lost in thought, Frey asked frankly, Marchioness, could you tell me the name of the maid who lost her wrist? She hadn't expected that question from him, pardon? Frey said with a sad expression. I was heartbroken to learn that she was your only friend as a child. With the royal family's help, she could find work anywhere, so I will immediately. Before he could finish, Nadia interrupted. I'm very grateful for your offer, but she's all right now. She has returned to her hometown and is living happily with her family. Frey replied, a bit let down. Is that so? Well, then there's no need to worry, but if she runs into any trouble, just let me know. She forced a smile. I'm already very grateful for your concern. As she finished speaking, Nadia wondered to herself, is this prince really so naive? Scene change. To the residence of Duke Balazette. He is sitting in a room, his hands clenched into fists. At this moment, Duke Balazette is furious, gritting his teeth. Nadia. The Duke rubbed his forehead in frustration. How in the world did things end up like this? The heir to the throne joining forces with that Marquis. It's truly unheard of. On top of that, I planted my own daughter as a spy, to be my eyes in the center of the enemy's den. He remembered Karen's words. Anyone can see that she's helping Winterfell. I just wanted to help. You be more vigilant. But you only trusted her. Now, the Duke's hands were trembling, just as Karen had said. Everything started to fall apart when Nadia married into the north, ever since she bought that thorny herb that turned out to be a cure for the plague. Since then, Winterfell has devoured the Reina region, and the second prince, a candidate for the throne, was seriously injured, all starting from when Nadia leaked our family's internal information. For all of these events to unfold so smoothly, can it really be just a coincidence? So, when was this plan hatched? Or was it from the very beginning? As he thought of this, he couldn't help but let out a hollow laugh. Now, Duke Balazette was certain of it. It was all Nadia's plan. Aiden seemed unable to believe it. What? But it wasn't without reason, the Duke speculated. On the possibilities, perhaps she developed feelings after getting close to that man. What an ungrateful traitor. At the same time, Liam's hands were clenched tightly. Duke Balazette continued to ask, in the capital, has anyone seen her around? The man immediately reported, recently, it seems she has been meeting often with the Crown Princess. Your Highness. Word is she was delayed because she had to prepare a beauty treatment at the Crown Princess's request. Her Highness. He couldn't believe it. Frowning, Nadia is making medicine? After speaking, Duke Balazette silently wondered, has she already come up with an excuse for a long-term stay? Either way, this is good, before she can grow her wings and fly away. I have to deal with my own people. After some deliberation, he ordered Idol to contact Nadia and tell her to come see the Duke. The reason was that they should meet one time before she leaves. The scene changes to the next day, at the residence of Empress Griselda. The sound of sobbing echoed. She said with great resentment, the heavy rain at a time like this isn't the boy's fault. Why does he have to take all the responsibility? Nadia, sitting opposite her, reassured her, you know this is just a temporary situation. This is just a measure to appease the public. He will be back soon. Griselda, still full of pity, said, even though I know that, I can't even see a trace of him in the palace. Every time I look outside, I'm reminded of my son. It's truly heartbreaking. His Majesty is being too cruel. It's not like he was thrown in a dungeon. He's just resting in a room more spacious than a commoner's house. Yet she's whining. How pathetic does that sound? Just how much of a pampered prince is he? Although Nadia was scoffing inwardly, she offered words of encouragement out loud. His Highness the Prince has also endured a lot for the sake of the current situation. It's good to think of this as a chance for him to rest. More importantly, aren't you curious about what I've brought today? It's the medicine Your Majesty the Empress commissioned. As expected, her mood brightened. Thank you for fulfilling my request, my lady. Seeing as it took so long to create, it must be. His Highness the Prince has also endured a lot for the sake of the current situation. It's good to think of this as a chance for him to rest. Adjust the supply in order to raise its value. Besides, this beauty medicine is targeted towards noble ladies who have plenty of time and money. She continued with her future plans. After I return, I will continue to send the medicine to you. The Marquis has been urging me to return home recently. Only then did Griselda realize, has time passed by so quickly? I feel quite embarrassed always accepting gifts from you. So, starting next week, I will pay for it. So make sure the maids here know the price before you leave. Hearing that she would get paid, Nadia cheerfully replied, thank you for your consideration, Your Majesty. Now I can proceed with my plan carefully. But a moment later, she stared with a worried gaze. Jiho was getting closer. Why is he here? If the first batch of medicine is a success, word will spread, and it will become widely known. Everything is going so smoothly, what a relief. Nadia was in a great mood. There will be so much to do when I get back. She happily watched Fabian in the distance, not noticing a hand reaching for her from behind. Sir Fabian! He heard someone call him and immediately turned his head. The voice was very familiar, but when Fabian turned around, there was no one there. My lady! Meanwhile, Nadia was grabbed by the wrist and pulled into a secluded corner. Confused, she asked, Sir, what are you doing, Sir Lee Jiho? After she spoke, Jiho immediately apologized. My apologies, Miss Nadia. I have something important to tell you. Regarding your father. Hearing this made her even more anxious. My father? Nadia pressed her lips together, unsure of what to do. After a moment of silence, she urged, to him on, please get to the point, my knight is waiting. He went straight to the main issue. The Duke is suspicious of the Marchioness. He is wondering if you have forgotten your duties and are helping Winterfell. Nadia asked in complete surprise. Don't tell me everyone is suspicious of me? Jiho couldn't confirm it with certainty. I'm not sure myself, but one thing is certain, the Duke is suspicious of you. Of course, I personally believe you have no reason to do such a thing. But he didn't voice his own suspicions, thinking to himself, it's gotten to the point where it's definitely suspicious. She immediately smiled brightly and affirmed, of course, why would I betray my father? Jiho looked at Nadia's expression, and then shared his thoughts. I believe you, Nadia. In the future, if you, Nadia, show a sincere attitude, he will become less suspicious. So, don't harbor any ill intentions, because the Duke has no thoughts of letting you, Nadia, stay in the north. So what you're saying is, I shouldn't hold a grudge for being unjustly suspected, and I shouldn't even think about siding with Winterfell. Is that it? From that information, she could confirm this was clearly a trap of suspicion, but Nadia remained calm and said, I see. I'm also looking forward to the day I return to the capital. After she spoke, she suddenly wondered about her past life. But why does he trust me so much when we aren't even close? In any case, I need to leave as quickly as possible. So Nadia quickly turned to leave. Thank you for telling me, Sir Jiho. Well, just then, he grabbed her hand tightly. They were both silent for a moment. She turned to look at Jiho, confused. Sir Jiho? He spoke with some hesitation. I've helped you. So, could you answer a question of mine, Miss Nadia? Our relationship. Do we have some kind of relationship that I can't remember? I've been feeling strange lately, as if someone is whispering in my head, that this is the last chance, that I can't miss it. Jiho continued to pour his heart out. I know you must find these words strange. But the more Nadia listened, the more confused she became. What is he talking about? It seems he doesn't remember our past life. Could it be that the memories he can't recall still linger in his subconscious? He was still rambling on. When I'm in front of you, I feel like a child who has made a mistake. If that was the case, she regained her composure and said, I see. Sir Jiho, then all I can say is this. You should go back quickly and try seeing a doctor. Nadia was also calculating everything in her head. It's probably just a vague feeling of guilt. Jiho seemed not to expect her to say that. What? Then Nadia coldly shook his hand off. Auditory hallucinations, tinnitus, those are all common early-stage symptoms of an illness. And this kind of contact can easily lead to misunderstandings. Seeing her change in attitude, Jiho quickly said, my apologies, I may have worried you. Nadia immediately denied it. Not at all. You helped me. so how could I not be concerned about such matters? She suddenly saw something over on the other side. When she got a clear look, Nadia was overjoyed, and smiling she couldn't help but call out, "Sir Fabian." Fabian rushed over, calling out, "My lady." Then Nadia politely bid her farewell. "Well then, I'll be on my way. As you can see, my knight has come for me, so he didn't try to keep her any longer. How inconsiderate of me. Please, go on ahead." As she left, she said with a smile, "Yes, goodbye then." Fabian followed Nadia and asked with concern, "My lady, I hope I wasn't interrupting your conversation?" She said with great satisfaction, "Sir Fabian, your timing was perfect." Fabian didn't understand the meaning behind Nadia's words. "Pardon me?" Just then, the look in Nadia's eyes changed. Perhaps he still has lingering echoes of the past. If his memories return, he'll be a huge obstacle for me. I suppose I'll have to cause a distraction. He seemed to recall something. Since he called for the lady about an issue, she stared at Fabian in confusion. "What is it?" Fabian quickly reported. "I happened to overhear something a moment ago." "Pardon me?" Just then, the look in Nadia's eyes changed. Perhaps what it was. Could it be something related to His Highness the Prince? Fabian was flustered, unsure of how to explain. "It's just that." His hesitation only made her more curious. "What is it that's making you stammer like this?" After hesitating for a moment, he stepped forward to whisper in Nadia's ear. By the time he finished, she was utterly shocked. "What?" "So His Highness Frey." The scene changes to the office. As Frey was speaking, "I'll ask one last time. Are you really just going to leave the prince's palace?" The royal tutor replied coldly, "I do not accept students who have no will to learn. That way we won't have to waste any more time." He furiously yelled, "Whether I go back to my old ways or continue studying, it's all up to you." "Are you saying the royal tutor is just leaving like that?" In the vast and luxurious royal palace, Frey leaned back in his chair and spoke dejectedly. This is a huge problem. He could already imagine Nadia's piercing gaze. It ended up like this after all. "The Marchioness taught me so much, and yet she'll obviously be so disappointed if she hears this news. She'll be so disappointed." At this, Frey gave a bitter smile. "From now on, I probably won't have the nerve to face the Marchioness anymore." While he was wallowing in despair, Nadia arrived. "So this is where you were, Your Highness." Frey couldn't believe it was really her, and waved his hand. "Am I so exhausted that I'm starting to have hallucinations now?" Just then, Nadia got straight to the point. "Is it true that you had a conflict with your tutor, Your Highness?" As soon as she spoke, a silence fell upon them. He looked up at her with wide, shocked eyes. "Marchioness," she began respectfully, "it is an honor to be in the presence of the son of the Empire." Only then did Frey look around frantically. "My aide was just here a moment ago. Where did everyone go?" Nadia quickly explained. "I asked them to leave us for a moment." He was still confused. "The Marchioness?" She confirmed his unspoken question. "Yes, because I have something I wish to ask you, Your Highness. About something that might be difficult for Your Highness to discuss in front of others." Frey seemed to guess what Nadia was about to ask. Has word of that incident already reached the lady's ears?" "I suppose so. The royal palace has always been this kind of place." He suddenly felt a sense of self-blame. Himself. The Marchioness's face must be full of disappointment by now. Frey then closed his eyes and admitted his fault. "I am truly sorry. Because my studies were lacking. This is the result." Before he could finish, she cut in. "A king must understand benevolence and compassion. Do you remember the words I said before?" Nadia's words captured Frey's attention. "What?" She patiently explained so he would understand. "All conflicts have their reasons. But the Highness I know is not someone who would act without a reason. So could you please tell me why?" He couldn't believe her attitude. "She trusts me?" In that instant, Frey was moved to tears. Marchioness Nadia was startled by his reaction. "Your Highness, so you went to ask for a favor, but the royal tutor said something disrespectful, and you became angry and didn't try to keep him here. Is that correct?" "Up until now, not a single royal tutor has lasted for more than 2 months," Frey hurriedly explained. "I swallowed my pride and begged. Given another chance, I seriously want to try and do better this time." She smiled, cutting him off. "Yes, I believe you. It's just that something is on my mind." Nadia quickly sensed something was amiss, a little strange. Being a royal tutor is an incredibly prestigious title, so even if a student does something unsatisfactory, they wouldn't just abandon such a prestigious honor in only 2 months. She suddenly grew curious. "Your Highness, how have the royal professors been chosen until now?" Frey answered Nadia's question. "Most of them are recommended through my mother, although the one who left today was not one of them." She immediately refuted it. "No, that person is definitely connected to the queen consort." Seeing Nadia's firm assertion, he was surprised. "What? My mother? Why?" She continued her analysis. "Because the responsibility of educating the princes belongs to the queen consort." Nadia pieced everything together logically. "Now I can see how everything works. Forcing so many scholars to leave because they can't continue teaching is a way to constantly degrade their character. When the feeling of helplessness becomes a habit, it's very hard to escape, just like me in my past life." Frey processed her words and remarked, "What you're saying makes sense. However, wouldn't it be difficult to find someone who isn't influenced by my mother's power?" But Nadia disagreed with him. "Not at all. There is one person on your Highness's side, your only blood relative, somewhere else." Meanwhile, Count Ordo was instructing his subordinate, "I will be returning to my domain soon. Prepare everything quickly. I will depart as soon as everything is ready." The man complied. "Yes, Count." He stood by the window, gazing at the scenery outside. Count Ordo's gaze shifted to the picture on his desk. He must have heard the news, and yet he didn't come. There probably won't be another chance to come to the capital for a long time. Meanwhile, she laid out a perfect plan for Frey. You should go and see Count Ordo. Right now, Count Ordo felt very disappointed, thinking that this incident would help him come to his senses, but there was still no sign of him. He thought to himself, it seems he still doesn't realize the responsibility of the position he holds. If I continue to support someone like that, our family's security will undoubtedly be at risk. But Count Ordo remembered how a young Frey had once innocently said, "Huh? The throne? I don't really care about that, do I have to? Worry about my reputation too? It's such a pain. As long as I can play with you like this, uncle, then nothing else really matters." Holds. If I continue to support someone like that, our family's security will undoubtedly be at risk. Count Ordo closed his eyes and murmured, I don't know what to do with you anymore. Just then, there was a knock at the door. My Lord Count, His Highness the Prince is here. To see you. He couldn't believe it, turning around and exclaiming, what? Then Count Ordo quickly went to open the door, thinking, that boy came to find me on his own? Impossible, he's never done that before. Could it be that something serious has happened? He stared in a daze. He was right there before his eyes, His Highness the Prince. He then saw Frey smile at him and call out softly, Uncle, it's been a while. The Count pressed his lips together, telling himself not to get soft. Count Ordo composed himself and asked, what brings your Highness all the way here? You're not one to have the free time to visit a place like this. Where was I? He explained his presence. I heard you came to the capital, Uncle, so I rushed over, yes. He was right there before his eyes, His Highness the Prince. He then saw Frey smile at him and call out softly, Uncle. His uncle's arm. I've truly realized I was wrong about so many things. I must apologize for my actions. He was bewildered to hear these words from Frey. His hand gripped his uncle's tightly. I'm sorry I couldn't come to you sooner. Uncle. The scene changes to when Frey is tightly holding Nadia's small hand. He said excitedly, so, do you know what my uncle did after that? It was as if he was waiting. You've come at just the right time, Your Highness. That was the first time I'd ever seen my uncle act so humble in front of me. While Glen's face darkened, she replied with relief, really? That's wonderful. Freya spoke with immense gratitude. It's all thanks to you. When I mentioned you, my lady, do you know how he responded? Nadia forced a smile, thinking, I wonder how many times I've heard this already. However, she still spoke up. Is that so, Your Highness? I would love to hear more, but I'm afraid I must be going now. I've been away from the fief for a very long time, so he finally understood and replied, I've taken up too much of your time, my apologies. If only the Marquis family could stay in the capital a little longer. Nadia was stunned to hear Frey say that. Then, the corners of her mouth lifted into a beautiful smile. Nadia earnestly assured him, even if we leave, Your Highness won't be lonely from now on. Her words lifted Frey's spirits. That's right, isn't it? That reminds me, I have a gift for you, my lady. Nadia didn't expect that. Yes, a gift? He looked at her gratefully. I've always wanted to express my gratitude for giving me this opportunity. Please accept it without feeling burdened. Nadia stared ahead in shock. This? Just then, Frey placed a beautiful bracelet on her wrist. He explained the origin of the item. It's one of the mementos my mother, the late crown princess, left behind. Nadia hurriedly refused. A memento? I can't possibly accept something so precious. Frey said frankly, I hope you won't refuse, my lady. She looked at the bracelet uneasily and gasped. Just then, Nadia heard a strange sound. She immediately turned to look at him. Glen, what was that sound? Glen looked down and denied it. What sound? Nadia, still confused, blurted out, but I did. I just heard a strange sound. He insisted it was just the wind. She judged from Glen's unusual reaction. He must be angry because we're leaving late. We should get going. In the end, Nadia had to compromise. Then I will accept this gift as a token of my thanks. He glared at Frey as if to say, are you going to get away from my wife or what? He, with zero perceptiveness, didn't notice the tense atmosphere. If you were to stay a little longer, my lady, I could have found an even more precious item for you. She spoke tactfully. If it's a memento from the late crown princess, then it's already too precious. After I return to the fief, every time I look at this bracelet, I will pray for Your Highness's well-being. When I'm not here, Your Highness must listen to your uncle, okay? After hearing this, he replied, I will keep that in mind. Then, Nadia got into the carriage. Farewell. I shall take my leave then. The secret pact between the two families will soon become an opportunity for the North and the Third Power to form an alliance. Not far away, Frey shouted from behind. If you ever happen to pass by the western region, don't hesitate to call for me. I will put everything aside and come see you off. Nadia looked back. On second thought, of course that's important too. But for someone who's always so listless, to see him look so interested now really makes it all feel worthwhile. She couldn't help but whisper, Your Highness. Then Nadia's face fell as she thought to herself, I'm not here to send you off but to pick you up. Don't ruin this touching moment for me with words like that. In the Fine Arts Commercial District, Glen looked at the scenery around them and asked Nadia, is this the place? She glanced around and answered, I believe so. Before she left the capital, a letter from Livia had arrived at Nadia's townhouse. Have you been doing well? It's been a long time since I left the capital, and ever since you put your trust in me, Nadia, I've been focusing on my art. Even so, father is still not satisfied and constantly nags me. I even have to cover my ears, just to block it out. Nadia imagined Count Frith grumbling, a daughter pursuing art? What nonsense. Livia, while painting, would retort, I can't hear you. Reading this, she couldn't help but smile. So, this time I've decided to try and seize an opportunity with my own strength, without my father's help. On your way back to your domain, would you be able to stop by? Now Nadia was feeling a bit anxious. It's been so long since we last met. I'm suddenly feeling a bit sentimental. Just then, someone called out to Nadia. Seeing her appear, Nadia was overjoyed. Livia! Livia walked over to greet them. It's really been a while, hasn't it? Did you have any trouble finding the place? Nadia quickly answered. I was fine. How about you, Livia? She smiled and explained. I've been here before, so I'm fine. Though, of course, getting past my father was a bit of a hassle. Hearing that, Nadia remarked, so that's how it was. Meanwhile, his face darkened. As he greeted, it's been a while. Nadia suddenly became curious. But Livia, what about your clothes? From behind, Fabian gushed. So adorable. Livia quickly explained. The dresses I normally wear are a bit too eye-catching. Well, we don't have much time, so let's get going. She quickly followed along. Okay. From behind, Fabian gushed. So adorable. Livia quickly explained. The dresses I normally wear are a bit too eye-catching. In the capital a few times, but this is my first time visiting a place like this. She explained. This place is considered a mecca for wandering artists. Even though the capital has many talented artists, exhibition opportunities are reserved only for male aristocrats. That's why this street became a place where wandering artists, who lack such opportunities, can exhibit their own work. If they happen to catch the eye of a noble, they can receive patronage. The artists can receive patronage from nobles if they're discovered, and the nobles, in turn, can enhance their reputation by acting as patrons. It's a win-win system for both sides. After hearing the explanation, Nadia couldn't help but remark, this is more serious than I imagined. Livia quickly added, that's precisely the reason this street exists. Based on the information she just heard, Nadia began to calculate, in her mind. Maybe I should think about sponsoring an artist sometime. Livia suddenly turned to Glenn and said, oh, that reminds me. I have a favor to ask of you, Marquess. He asked in confusion. What is it? Livia kept a smile on her face. It's just that, could you please turn right, go straight, then make a left, and then take about 5 more steps. You'll see a shop called Yummy Parfait, and could you buy me 15 parfaits, 5 of them strawberry, 4 chocolate, and you can pick the rest for me. A completely flustered Glenn exclaimed, what? Me? Why so many? Right. Meanwhile, her eyes lit up. This is perfect. She feigned weakness. I came out so early I haven't eaten yet. It's a bit much, so you should go too, Sir Knight. He refused Livia's request. What? We can't just leave the ladies behind and both go. She winked at Nadia. But don't you want to try some, Nadia? Taking the hint, she whined playfully to Glenn. Glenn, I'm feeling a little hungry too. Can we count on you? In the end, he had to compromise. All right then, wait here for me. I'll be right back. The plan was a success, so Nadia was delighted. Yes, please be safe. As Glenn walked away, he called back. Honestly, I'll be back quickly, so just wait here, Fabian urged from behind. Come on, let's hurry, my lord. She felt a bit helpless about his reaction. He's such a worrywart. Livia, let's find a place to sit nearby. Just then, Nadia glanced behind her in a panic. A disguised mercenary hired by Livia covered her mouth and warned her. Be quiet and follow me. Seeing this, Nadia couldn't help but wonder, who in the world is doing this? Nadia began to feel worried. Livia, where did Livia go? While she was panicking, Livia called out loudly, Nadia, Nadia. She was completely stunned to see her forcefully push the disguised mercenary away. Livia angrily told him, I told you to be gentle. Who pulls someone that hard and for so long? The disguised mercenary hired by Livia answered tremblingly, but didn't you say we had to escape quickly? She ignored him and said gently to Nadia, I'm sorry, that must have surprised you, right? I hired a mercenary on purpose, but I didn't think he would be this rough. Hearing this, Nadia was in disbelief. A mercenary. Livia smiled in confirmation. That's right, I had to do it to get away from the Marquis in that night. By now, those two probably think we were taken by those 2 mercenaries and are chasing them now. They've probably already passed this way. Sure enough, Glenn had already noticed something was off. Something strange. Meanwhile, Fabian was lost in thought. I want to go on a date with Livia too. She was completely astounded by her plan. Nadia suddenly grew worried. But why did you do all of this? Livia looked at her and said meaningfully, because the secret place we're going to is a place only we will know. Nadia still couldn't process what was happening. Excuse me? When they arrived at the secret location, she asked, this place is a bit out of the way, isn't it? I chose it just for the beautiful view. Here, come on in. Nadia walked into the room, and upon seeing the color palette and a painting, she exclaimed, in here? Then Livia cheerfully announced, welcome. You are the very first guest to visit Livia's atelier. Atelier is French, for an artist's or designer's workshop or studio. Nadia didn't understand the implication. Of the name she just mentioned, an atelier all of a sudden? Livia quickly explained, I prepared it, with the money I earned from selling my pieces. It was the only way to do it behind my father's back. It was quite a lot. I sold the paintings from the mansion, though I had to use a fake identity and gender. Now, if you were to go back to the mansion, I bet the hallways are completely bare now, right? She imagined Count Frey's screaming in shock. What in the world happened? Nadia, with the money I earned from selling my pieces. It was the only way to do it behind my father's back. It was quite a lot. I sold. Nadia gazed in amazement at the streetscape below. You could see the entire street, Livia posed. A couple of questions. I was right, wasn't I? It's quite a promising view, huh? At that moment, she was just admiring the gorgeous scenery. It's honestly beautiful. Congratulations, Livia. If I had known, I would have brought a gift, but this is truly wonderful regardless. She didn't seem to mind that at all. I'm the one who invited you without any notice, so on the contrary, I should be thanking you for accepting my invitation. The idea to find this place was all thanks to Nadia. Hearing this, Nadia looked confused and said, "What? I didn't do anything to help." Livia reminded her of the past. "Weren't you the one who helped me escape my father's grasp?" Of course I didn't rush to sign a contract based on just those words, but I've always dreamed of my own atelier, and here I feel like I can freely pursue my dreams without my father's supervision. Livia, no wonder she seemed to sparkle and glow as she poured her heart out. But even though this is the path I chose, sometimes I still feel scared. Maybe, just as my father said, getting married would have been the easier path, but I won't regret this. What a ridiculous thought. Just like something a typical noble lady would think. She immediately wanted to explain, "That's not it, Livia." Her words reminded Nadia of herself. "I used to worry just like that too. Will my future be okay after making this choice?" There were times I couldn't sleep at night from the anxiety. Whenever I had those thoughts, what was it I wished I could hear? She remembered Glenn's gentle words. "Please don't worry too much, because this time you won't be alone." Nadia's entire perspective had changed from that moment. That was me. So now she called out to Livia seriously. "Before long, the people who run this country won't only be male nobles." It was just like how Livia had seen something in me before. She asked blankly, "Huh?" Nadia continued her unfinished sentence. "So, what I'm trying to say is that we can't know the future. But," she smiled reassuringly at Livia, "because you're starting this, so many other noble ladies will follow in a new direction, so don't worry too much, because from now on, you're not alone. If we move forward together, maybe we can at least change the world around us." Nadia added cheerfully, "Next time I'll visit the atelier as an official client, artist Livia." I was that certain. Deeply moved, she managed to say, "Nadia, whatever the initial motivation, the essence of it eventually fades. However, during the time we lived together, the efforts we made and the time we existed will never be erased." Soon, the sun began to set in the west. She hadn't realized how quickly time had passed. The sun's already setting. "We should head back before Glenn and Fabian get too worried." Livia agreed with Nadia's suggestion. "That's right. This way is a shortcut anyway, so don't worry." Just then, Nadia wondered, "Now that I think about it, why didn't you let those two see the atelier?" She lowered her eyes and explained, "Because they're both male nobles, I don't think they'd be able to see this impartially. They would obviously say the same things my father did, like, 'It's very pretty.' It's the kind of comment that makes you wonder, who do you think you're talking to? Very pretty." She suddenly thought of Glenn's reaction, and if Fabian, who has feelings for Livia, knew about this, we'd be lucky if he didn't make a huge scene. "Should I help them out a bit?" Nadia tried to defend him and Fabian. "I think both of them would be able to see it fairly." Livia exclaimed in surprise. "What?" She stated with complete confidence. "You know I have good judgment when it comes to people." She was persuaded by Nadia. Nadia had said, "Then I'll treat you next time." Hearing that, she smiled, satisfied. "Then let's meet up again sometime." Just then, a rough hand appeared from out of nowhere, and Nadia froze when her wrist was gripped tightly by a street thug. She thought to herself, "Why does this feel just like what happened earlier?" Then Nadia asked awkwardly, "Are these different mercenaries?" Livia looked confused. "What? I already sent the mercenaries away a while ago." Then, both of their expressions changed as they looked at him. So these people. The street thug glanced at them and sneered. "So reckless? Walking on a deserted street like this? Your clothes look pretty expensive. Are you two noble ladies? Clearly. Those are outfits you don't see often on this street." It was then she realized they'd run into actual thugs, and to avoid these guys and escaping was impossible. In that case, Nadia turned and whispered to her, "Livia, you run ahead. Get Glenn to help." Livia was in a total panic. "What? Huh?" She continued explaining her plan, while, "You're running away. I'll stall them." The man was still sizing Nadia up. "You've got a very delicate face. I've changed my mind. I'm not just taking your money anymore." She started to get angry. "Let go of me. If you don't, my husband won't let you people off the hook," the thug said without a trace of fear. "So you're married? In that case, things will be much easier. If you don't want that pretty face of yours to get hurt, you'd better come with us quietly." Watching this from behind her, Livia's hand tightened on her skirt. That hand let go of her. Nadia was stunned when she saw Livia bite his hand. Livia seized the opportunity, grabbed her hand and said, while they're surprised, "Hurry, let's run." Seeing the two of them run away, they roared in anger. "Catch them!" Nadia said worriedly as they ran. "What was that, Livia? If we do that, it'll just provoke those guys even more." Livia obviously understood that, I know, but we promised that we would go back together. Her words left Nadia completely stunned. Livia looked at the road ahead of them and thought to herself, "We're almost there, just past this turn." Just then, she carelessly tripped, and Livia lost her balance, about to fall. Seeing this as she ran, Nadia yelled out in alarm, "Livia!" In that perilous moment, someone rushed forward. "Gotcha, I got you." Fabian caught her in his arms just in time. "Milady, are you all right, milady?" Livia looked up in surprise at the man who just appeared. "Sir Knight," Livia said urgently. "This isn't the time, Nadia," Fabian exclaimed in panic. "Over there!" His voice faltered. "Don't worry." At the sight before her eyes, she froze for a moment. Glenn's face was dark, his eyes filled with bloodlust as he said in a cold voice, "Perfect timing. I haven't been in a good mood lately." Nadia panicked and wrapped her arms around him from behind. Calm down, Glenn. He only grabbed my wrist. I'm not hurt anywhere else. The sharp blade of his sword reflected his cold eyes. You dare to grab my wife's wrist? That insolent hand? I'll immediately. Nadia shouted helplessly. Glenn, I told you not to do strange things like this. His voice was laced with anger. As he said, I have to deal with them so they can never do this again. She quickly replied, Deal with them? It's not that serious. You don't have to go that far. Standing to the side, Livia sighed to herself. I guess there was no need to worry. Fabian, who was beside her, chimed in. Right? She said softly still. What a relief. Before she could finish speaking, cries of pain rang out, and he worriedly asked the young lady, Are you hurt anywhere? Livia's body trembled slightly. My leg. Her voice was soft. It's okay. It just hurts a little. I'll immediately. Nadia shouted helplessly. Glenn, I told you not to do strange things like this. His voice was laced with anger. Livia was confused. Huh? The next moment, he carefully swept her into his arms, and she was so startled she couldn't help but let out a gasp. Fabian turned to Nadia and said, Madam, Miss Livia has twisted her ankle, so I may have to take her home. Would that be all right? Hearing this, Nadia immediately turned around. What? Is Miss Livia hurt? These guys, and escaping was impossible. In that case, Nadia turned and whispered to her, Livia, you run ahead. He mumbled, But those guys. Nadia pulled his arm and whispered softly, Come on, Glenn, Livia said shyly. Yes, I'm okay, let out a gasp. Fabian turned to Nadia and said, Madam, Miss Livia has twisted her ankle, so I may have to take her, but I think I can still walk. For a moment, Fabian was at a loss for words, then he suddenly spoke up. Please excuse my rudeness. He mumbled, But those guys. Nadia pulled his arm and whispered softly, Come on, Glenn, Livia said shyly. Yes, I'm okay. Is she crying because it hurts so much? We need to get her to a doctor quickly. As the sun began to set, Fabian spoke up. Then I will take her home. It's getting dark, so you should head back first, madam. Nadia replied quietly. Shouldn't we all go together? A noise from the men lying on the ground made her turn her head instantly. She recalled the sight of Glenn forcefully slamming a man's head down to the ground. Back then, she was slumped amongst the crowd, and Glenn immediately noticed her expression. He gently placed his hand on her shoulder, saying gently, Let's do that. My wife must have had a hard time. He's a seasoned knight, so don't worry. Nadia lowered her gaze, slightly embarrassed. Then Livia, I'll leave her in your hands, Sir Fabian. A few days later, a carriage pulled up in front of the magnificent mansion on a clear, sunny day. Fabian's face was beaming, as if flowers were blooming all around him. Lisa leaned close to Nadia's ear. Madam. Nadia lowered her gaze, slightly embarrassed. Then Livia, I'll leave her in your hands, Sir Fabian. A few days later, a carriage pulled up in front of the magnificent mansion on a, like a fool. It's been a while, sir. Are you going straight to your room? Nadia clicked her tongue softly. She gently called his name. Noah. Could you get down for a second? He let out a few squawks in response. Nadia couldn't help but marvel. Since when? She clasped her hands and strolled toward the butler, speaking gently. It's been a while, hasn't it, Gordon? A noise from the men lying on the ground made her turn her head instantly. She recalled the sight of Glenn forcefully slamming a man's head. Clear, sunny day. Fabian's face was beaming, as if flowers were blooming all around him. Lisa leaned close to Nadia's ear. Madam. The thing is, suddenly he broke into a happy smile. We had an unprecedentedly bountiful harvest, madam. Hearing that, she was taken by surprise. Nadia clapped her hands, her tone full of praise. You really gave me a scare, Gordon. Why were you stammering like that? Was confused, thinking, why is he hesitating like this? Did something happen? Gordon's face was a mess of colors. It is all thanks to your work in developing the agricultural tools, madam. The yield from the Darklands has far surpassed anything we could have imagined. She smiled happily at that. That's exactly the result I was hoping for. Lisa, standing nearby, spoke caringly. Gordon choked up, his eyes welling with tears as he replied, because I suddenly remembered the bleak days of Winterfell. He quickly explained, all right, let's do that then. But Glenn behind her was whispering something to Gordon I'm counting on. He was nodding eagerly. Suddenly, a series of squawks drew Nadia's attention. Madam, shall I prepare a warm bath? You must be tired after such a long carriage ride. Nadia gave a slight nod. He frantically called her name, Nadia. Lisa was stunned as well. My lady. Glenn quickly helped her up, asking worriedly. A pair of black wings came into her view. Before she could get a clear look, the creature lunged at her, knocking her over, and Glenn panicked. Get knocked down by Noah? When did he get so heavy? She replied softly, yes, I'm all right. On top of that, before she could finish speaking, she felt, the thing is. Suddenly he broke into a happy smile. We had an unprecedentedly bountiful harvest, madam. Hearing that, are you okay? Lisa also rushed over. My lady, did you injure your head? Nadia thought to herself. Did he get so big? Glenn frowned in anger, forcefully pulling Noah away. How dare you get knocked down by Noah? When did he get so heavy? She replied softly. Yes, I'm all right. On top of that, before she could finish speaking, she felt. He leaned in close to tell her. But Nadia, if you spoil him too much, you'll have problems later on. As far as I know, dragons can grow larger than a whole castle. I predict it won't be long before he's bigger than a human. Hearing that, she covered her mouth in shock. Nadia imagined a scene where Noah. That's the look of a man in love. Lisa was stunned. What? In love? Nadia giggled. It's true. Glenn agreed. Exactly, she said quietly. Then we should start preparing a place for him to live outside. Noah listened with an innocent look. Hearing that, Glenn immediately nodded in agreement. That's right. We should also start getting him used to sleeping outside. Suddenly, a cry from him caught the attention of both of them. The creature shrank down and beamed, making Nadia call out his name in surprise. Noah. She gently petted his head. You know how to do this trick too? I heard that some types of monsters can adjust their body size. Dragons are a type of monster too, so this must be a racial trait. Glenn immediately chimed in. Exactly. A creature that understands human words like him must have all sorts of abilities. Who knows? When we're not looking, he might even be able to speak. As he said this, Noah squawked right back. It turned into a verbal spat between the two of them. Glenn was speechless, and Nadia laughed helplessly. There's no way that could happen. I mean, being able to speak human? That's a bit of a stretch. She lowered her gaze, smiling and petting his head. You're so adorable. Noah winked at Glenn, then propped his chin up with a smug, teasing expression. Glenn was instantly stunned, his voice filled with outrage. Why, you little lizard? Nadia tilted her head, asking Glenn in confusion. What's the matter? A moment later, the two of them headed inside the mansion. Nadia gently petted the creature, sleeping soundly, curled up in her lap. She murmured, finally, some peace and quiet. Now, honestly, what does Glenn get out of fighting with a baby dragon? Glenn just let out a quiet huff. He gestured towards an intricately carved box on the table. Nadia, would you mind trying to open this? Nadia asked quietly. I'm sorry? As she reached to open the box, she thought, this looks awfully familiar. A glittering light. He gestured towards an intricately carved box on the table. Nadia, would you mind trying to open this? Glenn agreed. Exactly, she said quietly. Then we should start preparing a place for him to live outside. Noah listened with an innocent look. Nadia gently petted the creature, sleeping soundly, curled up in her lap. She murmured, finally, some peace and quiet. Shone out, leaving her speechless. This is a jewelry box? Glenn replied. It's the one my mother used to use. On the relic. He looked at her gently. I'd rather it get a small scratch than have people think I'm disrespecting you. Glenn glanced at Fabian's confused face. Sometimes things are just what they seem. Nadia seemed to recall something as a smile formed on her lips. Then I'll choose a ring, she thought to herself. So he was still bothered by that comment. Glenn said in a tone of, looking at the jewelry box on the table, Nadia asked, Golden showed this to me before, but why are you bringing it up all of a sudden? You, because it's the same color as your eyes, she said while looking intently. I like jade the most. Nadia smiled gently. But it seems there isn't any here. It's not a very valuable gemstone, so it not being here isn't all that strange, he said, slightly surprised. You like jade? She lowered her head slightly, replying a bit shyly. Yes, jade. It's not a common preference for noble ladies, is it? She thought. Although it might not be that I like it, but more that it's familiar. All the valuable things belong to Karen, but the only gemstone I had. Admiration. An excellent choice. Is there anything else you like? I think the emerald would suit. Glenn paused for a moment, then suddenly shot to his feet, his voice booming. But I like it. The sudden noise made Noah jump. Nadia's eyes widened as she asked curiously, What? You like jade too? He replied softly, Yes, for about 1.5 years now, is when I started to like it. Fabian, who was standing nearby, couldn't help but cover his mouth to hide a sarcastic smirk. Glenn lowered his gaze slightly. I think jade is a gem that shines brighter than anything else. At his words, she felt a little shy. Glenn, she thought, if it's been 1.5 years, that's since we got married. Is he really talking about jade? Fabian said in a teasing tone. Our lord. Suddenly, a kick from Glenn made him cry out in pain. Glenn spoke gently to Nadia. I will order the merchants to find some jade. So how about you wear the emerald ring for now? But as soon as he turned to Fabian, his attitude changed instantly. Get this thing out of here, Fabian stammered in pain. My lord, but first my leg was something I could call my own. Of course, when people talk about green gemstones, they usually think of emeralds. Was filled with tenderness. He slipped the sparkling emerald ring onto her finger. It's a perfect fit. Suddenly, he squeezed her hand tightly and called out softly, Nadia. Before Nadia could think, why so suddenly? He's holding my hand for so long, she replied softly. Yes, what is it? At some point, Glenn had taken the ring off and put it back in the box. He said casually, We have to be careful with this. It's a relic from the Empress. After all, it wouldn't be good if it got scratched. Nadia looked down at her hand in a panic. Since when? She stammered. Is that so? Glenn continued. By the way, I don't know if that report has reached you yet. I heard some areas in the north are experiencing a famine. She immediately focused. Her voice became serious. I've heard about it. The logistics team suggested we provide food aid. Meanwhile, Fabian was still struggling with Noah. Glenn sat down next to her. I think that's a good idea. I think organizing a meeting among the northern families at this time would be good. Nadia agreed. That would be fine. Since the harvest season just ended, how about we hold a hunting competition? After saying that, he turned to Golden and said, That sounds good. Golden, send letters to the other lords to ask for their opinions. He quickly replied, Yes, I understand. Then turned back to her and said, It's going to be busy for a while. Isn't it? Your business is doing so well? Nadia smiled lightly. I didn't know the season would be this good. After returning to the manor, a huge pile of letters was waiting in the office, including a letter from the Empress and requests for the medicine from the capital. Gordon cried tears of joy as he read them. My lady, all of this. Nadia rested her chin on her hand and smiled. Word travels faster than I thought. He couldn't help but exclaim, my lady is our gold mine. Indeed. No matter how the king tries to control the north, he's powerless against the effectiveness of this medicine, Nadia thought to herself. Plus, the ingredients are just byproducts from the monsters that overrun Winterfell, things we'd normally just throw away. Among luxury goods for the nobility, what could be more profitable than this? She made a suggestion. How about we let Katarina's Creed Merchant Guild act as the intermediary this time? Because if we have an exclusive deal with Wei, it might attract suspicious eyes. Glenn agreed, and then said thoughtfully, you're right. I'll go meet with Katarina myself to discuss it. You should go rest in your room. Aren't you tired from the long journey? Nadia replied gently. Then I'll leave it to you. Before he left, he added, rest well. Nadia gently clasped her hands. Glenn is so affectionate. I'm sure that when the next Marchioness arrives, he'll treat her even better than he treats me now, won't he? When that person comes, will I be able to leave with a smile? On the day before the hunting competition, a pair of hands gently pushed aside the tent flaps. Nadia stepped out with a bright smile, saying, the air feels so nice. Giska, who was behind her, agreed. Indeed. This is the most harmonious and pleasant gathering out of all the events I've ever attended. She smiled, her eyes downcast. Perhaps it's because having a common enemy in the south has allowed us to strengthen our bonds. Especially recently, with the poor harvest, some of the northern nobles have faced great hardship and are in need of help. It's a great opportunity for the family heads to make a good impression. Glenn had said, take as much as you like. All I ask is that you do not forget this friendship with Winterfell. The two men knelt, their voices trembling but firm. We will never forget this kindness. We obey your command. A servant bowing to her caught Nadia's attention. She smiled and waved back, but she couldn't help but think to herself, the people of the north seem to be treating me with a strange amount of courtesy, don't they? Is it because of that? Nadia recalled that day, touching her bracelet as she said in surprise, Glenn, this is... Glenn looked down at her and replied, what is it? If you don't like it, I can find you something else. She quickly shook her head and smiled. Why wouldn't I like it? I'm just a bit surprised, he gently reminded her of her words. Didn't you say you liked jade before? Nadia felt a slight pang of guilt, even though I was a little annoyed, that because it was a rush order, it wasn't the most expensive kind of jade. She smiled happily and replied, really? Thank you. This will surely be the most precious item I own. Seeing her expression, Glenn felt a sense of pride. Seeing her like this, I definitely made a good purchase. Now I understand why men in the capital give gemstones to the women they are courting. He gently lifted her hand. I suppose I'll have to prepare gifts for you more often from now on. Then he gently placed a kiss on her hands, his eyes full of affection. Your happy smile is my greatest joy. Nadia shyly called his name, Glenn. She was embarrassed. Viscount Mayer is still here. If you do that, then Viscount Mayer. He hurriedly bowed and said, my lord, we have also received the support we needed, so we will take our leave now. Nadia couldn't help but smile helplessly. Thanks to you, this ended so awkwardly. She turned to Jiska and said, well then, shall we get going too? He asked in confusion. Ma'am? Nadia placed her hand on her bow. The archery I learned from Glenn, if I don't use it at a time. Like this. When else will I use it? Her face was full of excitement. Let's go catch some rabbits. A moment later, the sound of an arrow slicing through the wind struck a rabbit. Nadia cheered excitedly. I finally caught one. Giska picked up the rabbit and said, my lady, congratulations. She laughed joyfully. It's my first time hunting, and I've already hit my target. Seeing the fruits of Glenn's teaching, Nadia gripped the reins on her horse. Where is Glenn? I want to show him what I caught. Jiska, riding beside her, replied softly, he is also around here somewhere. Footprints believed to be from a ferocious beast have been discovered in the small animal area, he said slowly. Perhaps because my lady is here today. He is probably paying extra attention, she replied softly. Is that so? He's really something else. The horse's hooves leisurely trotted across the grass, Nadia said softly. In that case, we should head back to the tent so we don't get lost. Suddenly, a noise up ahead drew the attention of the two of them. Giska's face was filled with panic, his eyes flashing with fear. The brown bear in front of Nadia roared loud enough to shake the heavens. He shouted anxiously, my lady! The knights arrived quickly. Everyone prepare yourselves. Nadia's horse shrieked in fear, causing her to lose her balance and scream. Her foot slipped from the stirrup, her entire body leaning to one side. In the moment she was about to tumble off, Nadia thought in fear, I'm falling. In that very second, she saw a hand reaching for her. Glenn anxiously called her name, Nadia. Nadia was still so scared that she kept her eyes squeezed shut. The sound of rushing wind snapped her to her senses. Seeing the blood on Glenn's face and all over him, she called out in alarm, Glenn, Giska. Immediately ran over to ask, my lady, are you all right? Nadia said quickly, I'm fine, but Glenn. He was a bit stunned, ma'am? Nadia anxiously reached for Glenn's face. What should I do? This is all my fault. Are you okay? He answered softly, I'm not. Okay, this isn't blood. Her hand trembled as she gently placed it on his cheek, her voice soft, her eyes filled with both worry and love. You must be in so much pain. Glenn immediately became flustered. It felt like all the blood in his body was rushing to his head. He tried to remain calm and said, the scratch is just a little itchy. Nadia was still worried. What do you mean a scratch? There's so much blood. Leaking. Let's hurry back to the tent. Jiska, witnessing this, felt awkward and quickly spoke up. We will handle the rest. My lady, please. Take care of the Lord. She placed a hand on her chest to calm herself, then turned and said, Then I'll leave the rest to you all, near the campsite. The air was fresh and pleasant. Fabian cheerfully walked up holding the head of a beast and said, My lady, look at this. A prize this big would make a great decoration to gift to Lady Riviere, right? He glanced around and then asked, Oh my, why is the atmosphere so chaotic? And my lady, you look so gloomy, what happened? Nadia sighed, her voice heavy. Fabian. She lowered her eyes. I think Glenn was seriously injured because of me. Fabian was shocked. What? He asked as his imagination ran wild. Could it be? Did an ogre or something appear at the hunting grounds? Nadia quickly shook her head and said, It wasn't an ogre, but a huge bear appeared because he was saving me. Hearing that, Fabian was in disbelief, his voice half joking. A bear? You mean like an actual animal? From just one bear? Are you kidding me, my lady? He recalled a scene of the bear lying on the ground. I'll learn my lesson. The monster holding a giant hammer said, You're not even a monster, yet you're trying to act all high and mighty. Meanwhile, Glenn sat leisurely on a chair, cut the rookie some slack. Nadia said decisively, Of course it's true. He was so covered in blood you couldn't even recognize his shirt anymore. Fabian calmly said, My lady, even though I didn't see it for myself, that probably wasn't his blood. Suddenly, a knight pulled back the curtain and said, My lady, you may go in now, Nadia said, flustered. All right, then I'll go in first. Fabian replied softly, Yes, please go on in. He quietly watched her as she walked inside. Fabian scratched his head and mumbled, If this is a misunderstanding, he'll know how to explain it himself, right? Could it be he wants my lady to worry about him? Nadia cautiously stepped inside. She asked in a soft voice, Glenn, how are you feeling? She was horrified when she saw his head was wrapped in bandages. Glenn was sitting on the bed. He called out softly, Nadia. She rushed to his side and asked with concern, Glenn, is your head injured too? He touched his head. No, it's just a small cut on my forehead. I think when I fell, my forehead must have hit a sharp rock. Suddenly, Nadia lunged forward and hugged him tightly. Glenn remained calm. I'll recover quickly anyway. She cupped his face with her hands, her tone slightly scolding. What kind of wound that will heal quickly? Needs to be bandaged up so tightly? Nadia continued. Don't you have any regard for your own life? Please, stop rushing in so recklessly all the time. It could leave a scar, you know. Glenn looked deeply into her eyes, his voice resolute. My wife was in danger. How could I just stand by? If it leaves a scar, it will be a mark of honor. Her voice softened as she asked gently, Han, are you hurt anywhere else? He slowly shook his head and replied, No. Then he quickly turned away and added, I sustained some internal injuries from using my aura so hastily. Nadia said, I was wondering how you managed to take down such a huge bear in the blink of an eye. So that's how you used your aura. Glenn nodded. That's right. She carefully placed a cool cloth on his forehead and tucked him in. Internal injuries are more serious than external ones. So, for now, you must rest to recover. Glenn could only obey her. I know. He thought to himself with a twinge of guilt. Faking an illness at my age. But Nadia rested her chin on her hand. What foods are good for recovery, I wonder? Glenn thought to himself. This is the first time I've seen her look so worried. A smile twinkled in his eyes. Now this feels more like a married couple. But then Glenn's expression turned serious. I didn't want it to go this far, though. Several days had passed since the end of the hunting competition. Even though they were back at the estate after the debriefing, Nadia firmly took out a bow. Absolutely not, Glenn said helplessly. Ah, no, it's because my body feels tired. Because of Nadia's over-the-top care, I've been stuck in bed. And the paperwork is piling up. Should be handled in bed. Nadia asked softly. Glenn, you're being a little pouty. You're not a 10-year-old, so why are you treating me like this? Softly, Glenn. Are you listening to me? She called again. Glenn? He recalled Fabian's words. Well then, you should clear up the misunderstanding, right? I'm off to help Lady Riviere decorate. Glenn's face darkened. I thought it would be nice if she worried, but I didn't expect it to be this much, he thought. And another thing. Suddenly from outside the door came a voice. My lady, pardon the intrusion. Nadia turned. Oh my, they're here already, she said to him kindly. Glenn, today, I've also brewed some good medicine for a speedy recovery. Her voice was full of concern. It's best to drink it hot, so you should hurry. And drink it. But Glenn was not having it at all. Just touching it to his lips felt like he was going to die. He sighed helplessly and said, Nadia, although I've said it before, I'm beyond the point of recovery now. However, she wouldn't let him off the hook, but I heard internal injuries take a very long time to heal, so you must be diligent about drinking your medicine, Glenn felt. Helpless looking at Nadia's determined expression, he thought to himself, even though she's my wife, this stubbornness is really something. I can't let her see this. Suddenly, a guard approached and said, My lord, there's urgent news, but Glenn took the opportunity to place the dark purple bowl of medicine on the table. I have some business to attend to. Nadia didn't forget to remind him, You mustn't forget, you absolutely must drink it. She watched intently as he and the guard whispered urgently. Suddenly he yelled, You're saying it's true? Nadia asked worriedly. What's wrong, Glenn? Did my father cause trouble again? Glenn clenched. The paper? No. A part of the eastern border city has been taken. The demon tribe has likely crossed into the desert. She trembled slightly, thinking to herself, They're slowly approaching, just as I predicted. Nadia said fearfully, Oh my God, Glenn gently placed his hand on hers. He gently reassured her, "It's okay, Nadia. As long as I'm here, you'll be safe. I will absolutely protect you at all costs." Hearing this, Nadia just gave a slight nod, her eyes still filled with unease. Elsewhere, a man spoke up. "I hear that Lady Nadia always accompanies him during the meetings of the Northern Lords. Is that right?" Someone immediately demanded. "Duke, please tell us. Is it true that your daughter has been swayed by the Northern faction, just as the rumors say?" Thank you for watching today's video. And with that, we've reached the end of Season 1 of this captivating series. We'll see you all in Season 2, where the story promises to be even more dramatic and full of surprises. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us, and so you don't miss any new videos. We sincerely thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.